Welcome back to another exciting episode of Cyber Defense TV. I'm your host, Gary Malevsky, and the publisher of Cyber Defense Magazine. Guess who is sitting in my hot seat? Someone who's going to tell us about a very important color for cybersecurity. Rich Gardner is the principal security architect at XM Cyber. It's xmcyber.com. Tell us why purple is important in regards to red team and blue team. And welcome, Rich.
Welcome. Thanks for having me. Red and blue make purple. And so many times, especially in the industry, when you talk to red teamers, they only go so far of, they'll do the breach, they'll go to your critical assets, they'll move laterally, but they don't hand over the goods around fixing what they just did. They'll say, here's what I found, but how do we fix it? That's where the blue team comes into play. And a lot of teams are starting to find that their cohesion of having this purple team and getting to tabletop exercises where, hey, I'm going to do exercise 1. Can you see that? No? Let's fix it right now. So that piece of it is what we've taken and automated in our platform to continually test environments and networks.
So XM Cyber is really creating a convergence or bridging the gap between the red team and the blue team with automated attack simulation?
Yes, absolutely.
How do you guys do that? And I mean, how do you update it?
Yeah. How do we do it? It's we have sensors, endpoint sensors that actually collect metadata around the systems that they're installed on. That metadata is fed to our infrastructure, which could be either on-prem or in the cloud. It's up to you. So we're very flexible in that manner. And then we perform the simulations. And that simulation is actually really important for most organizations because we're not performing the actual attack on live production environments. So that takes the fear of taking systems down. But we're finding the information and we're mapping those to exploits and known tools that hackers are using, APTs that are using today in the environments. Now, on the other side of it, when you're done with that, we also have the remediation reports, so we can map out for every single jump point that we see, every piece of lateral movement. There could be 4 or 5 different things that you could do from a mitigating control factor, and we're going to give you that in a pretty concise, prioritized list.
Now, Rich, we're finding that some of the largest breaches in the world, not only have they started a year or two before they're discovered, but that there was a, get in, learn about an asset, a person, figure out who I'm going to send the remote access Trojan to in the email with the deep sea phishing attack. It's getting smarter and smarter, and it's becoming multiple attack patterns for a single breach. It's not a breach happened in one moment in time, and it may even take them months to pull this off nowadays, especially with bigger organizations for more covert exfiltration of more data.
Sure. Right?
Because if you're stealing millions of records, you've got to do it in a very secretive way. So you don't just jump in and grab the data. You do multiple steps. So these attack patterns are changing, evolving. A whole breach is a suite of, we'll call it, the hacker's playbook. Mm-hmm. Are you aware of that? Are you creating your own hacker's playbook? How does this work?
So what we do is we take a look at whether it be an exploit or a new attack vector or a new tool set. We look to see if they're remotely exploitable. We look to see the criticality of it. We also take a look at the information as far as how skilled do you have to be to actually pull this off. Once we package all that stuff up, we break it down where we're able to see the information on your systems that would actually map to that. And we also have multiple layers that we can look for attack vectors. So if, for example, I breach a system and I get local credentials, well, can I use those local credentials to move laterally? Or am I going to use a web exploit? Am I going to use a watering hole technique? So there's multiple techniques.
What's a watering hole technique for our viewers?
Watering hole. So just think of it as, I'm going to be a crocodile waiting underneath the water for that zebra to come up. And I'm just waiting for activity to happen before I jump on the opportunity to exploit a vulnerability.
So maybe you could even have a keylogger waiting for the user to enter the correct piece of data for the server that you've been looking for that back door into and you couldn't find.
Absolutely.
And now you've got the password. So you kind of waterhole that user as an example.
Yeah, that's a big one too. And a lot of security controls aren't going to find normal user activity. So if we see a machine that we could compromise and then all of a sudden they launch an RDP session, an SSH session, and we can capture those credentials, not that we keep them, but we see that operation can be performed, then we know that we can move laterally to a more critical asset.
The part I don't understand is when you say you're not going to affect, the blue team will turn blue if you're doing this on their live network. Are you virtualizing their real asset base, or how are you doing this attack simulation in such a way that it feels real to the red and the blue team?
So more of the not lighting up the SOC, but we're providing the SOC the ability to make changes in their either their systems, their IT systems that are going to be affected by our lateral movement.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be, let's fix a file share because putty.exe is sitting on a file share with full access, right? We don't want that. We want to drop it down to read only. So that's not something that the SOC necessarily would do. That would be an IT sysadmin. But if we had the watering hole technique that we just talked about, we want to make sure that RDP is multi-factor authenticated, right? That may be an issue where, hey, let's lock down our RDP sessions to this particular box. And if we do see RDP traffic, that lights up our SOC. So it provides those additional steps for both of those groups.
Now, I learned a few, and you're in the hot seat, so I'm going to give you a couple hot ones.
Okay.
I learned a few new terms because I hear so many acronyms, but smishing attacks and vishing attacks. Have you heard of those?
You know what? Those are new to me too.
SMS attacks and voicemail attacks.
Okay.
Totally crazy, but if you can get to a user and compromise them through SMS on their phone and they have corporate credentials, you may worm your way into the network. You guys are dealing with kind of the attack patterns that are traditionally done over the cloud, over the internet, or someone behind the firewall on the intranet. Correct. Would you consider adding these kinds of features one day?
Yeah, so there's, and I'll probably spill the beans a little bit. We're looking at social engineering and adding certain social engineering and phishing attacks to our platform. So most folks don't have to think about where could the breach point be. We're going to help you figure out where the breach point is going to be.
Because there's always a human factor in the breach.
Absolutely.
And, usually people don't look at their employees as the most important asset. They might look at the database or the revenue. But if we don't get our employees aware and educated and find that the weakest link,
right,
then that exploit or attack pattern may go after the weakest employee and work its way through the network, as you said, in multiple approaches.
Yes, absolutely.
And how big of the simulator, how big is the simulator? How easy is it to deploy? How often is it updated?
So updates are going to be based on what's happening in the industry. Over the past 3-4 months, we've made a couple updates. Some of those are feature sets, so we're adding new features. Some of them are exploits, and some are a combination of. So we do quite actively get into the updates, and you're able to update it yourself, or we can update it for you. For example, there are certain vulnerabilities that will come out that CISOs or security architects or the SOC want to know about really quick. We could turn those around in about 24 to 48 hours. So those updates are pretty quick, from breaking down, seeing the exploit, seeing the tool, and actually breaking it down and putting it into our platform.
Who should use XM Cyber's solution?
The day-to-day users, I think, are going to be the red team guys and the blue team guys. So, like you said at the top of the introduction, we're really trying to bridge that gap between the two teams and get them talking and helping them secure their crown jewels. CISOs are going to be very in tune with this breach and attack simulation platforms because they really want to understand how APTs are going to move laterally and are my crown jewels protected.
Is there an executive level dashboard or report that helps the executive say aha in one page or one screen versus...
Have you seen our product?
I have not seen
it. Okay, because you just hit on both of them.
There you go.
We do have an executive dashboard that gives you a live, a near live campaign report all the way across, and you can actually see a very high level breach attack simulation at the bottom, and then all of that information can be downloaded in a PDF format too.
That's fantastic. So easily deployed,
Yes.
bridging the gap, getting the red teams and the blue teams together, executive level information, really a hacker VCR.
Yes.
A hacker VCR, which I've never heard. So purple team, first time heard it here with XM Cyber. Hacker VCR, first time heard it from Rich. Folks, you got to check out their company. You're offering demos. Sign up for a demo if you're in a red or a blue team, or you're really worried in your organization. Maybe you're the CISO. Check them out, xmcyber.com, and get one step ahead of the next threat and the next breach, because if you're simulating it first, you're probably going to find your weak points. And that's critical. It's the most important thing we can do. So thank you for a great interview.
Excellent. Thank you.
You made it through the hot seat.
All right.
And stay tuned next time for an exciting episode of Cyber Defense TV.